Thanks, Sophie. Hello, you're watching Wales Today. I'm Nick Savini. The headlines. The rush to see Oasis, but dozens of fans claim they paid for hospitality tickets for a private box at the Principality Stadium that never existed.
People flew in to Wales. They had booked very expensive hotel rooms, and you know the financial impact on them, as well as the emotional turmoil, is I mean you can't put a number on it.
As police begin an investigation, we find out how the fans only realised there was a problem just a few hours before the concert. Also tonight. Laura Webb was one of the 52 people killed in the July the 7th bombings. Her brother tells us of the devastating toll it continues to take 20 years later.
The pain never goes away, you just learn to live with it. I've never been able to forgive the bombers, not just for what they did to our family, but what they did to the other families.
It's confirmed new fire safety laws to protect people in flats will come into force in Wales in 2027, 10 years after the Grenfell disaster. And after a disappointing start to their Euros campaign, can Wales bring a surprise against the French?
I think we really need to kind of take what we need to take from it and move forward and kind of throw the rest in the bin.
Good evening. Dozens of Oasis fans who believe they'd paid for a private box for Saturday's concert in Cardiff say they've paid hundreds of pounds for tickets they never received. Multiple victims have said they were left gutted and angry after they thought they were buying genuine tickets from a Pembrokeshire-based business owner, David Gray. They allege Mr. Gray may have left as many as 100 people without tickets. He's been unavailable for comment despite repeated attempts to reach him. Dyfed-Powys Police said it was investigating reports of a ticket scam, but made no reference to Mr. Gray. Here is Alan Thomas.
Walk away!
Cardiff City Centre was awash with Oasis fans over the weekend, eagerly awaiting their first gig in over 15 years. Principality Stadium was packed for the first two performances of the Gallagher Brothers World Reunion Tour. Among those hoping to be there on Saturday night were Neil Stevens and his wife Hannah from Crumlin in Caerphilly County. Neil paid £500 for two hospitality tickets last August, days after the reunion tour was announced.
I had a call from my friend Derry, and he said he knows someone with a box for the Principality Stadium for the Saturday event, which would be the second night, and would we be interested? Yes, was my response. And how much? So he told me how much. It was £250 per head. So I transferred in £500 and I said, is this legit? He said, yes. This is a gentleman called David Gray. He's a client of the Principality Stadium and has held many corporate events there and gigs. I've got friends who've been to the Foo Fighters and rugby, all as a guest of the host, Mr. David Gray. So I thought nothing of it. My friend Derry said that he had the email confirmation from Mr. Gray that our places were confirmed, and we were very relieved.
As Neil and Hannah got ready for the gig, with Hannah buying special trainers for her first chance to see Oasis performing live, it became clear that there was a problem. Neil and some friends who'd also bought hospitality tickets from David Gray travelled to the pub in Pembrokeshire where he's based on Friday evening to find out what was going on.
He actually took a phone call during our time within the pub, which is about an hour, from some guy flying in from Gibraltar, and explaining to everybody concerned that he would meet us outside gate 3 at 4:30 and he would sort it out.
But Neil got in contact with someone at Principality Stadium who confirmed that David Gray didn't have access to the hospitality box and that no booking was made. Mark Bonici from Machen near Caerphilly is another one of David Gray's customers.
And do you mind if I ask how much you paid?
I paid £1,200 for 4 tickets. That just makes me feel sick, really. It's probably more disappointed than anything because, you know, this is someone I've known for years.
BBC Wales have made repeated attempts to contact David Gray, and he wasn't around when we called at the pub in Pembroke Dock this morning. Dyfed-Powys Police have told us that they've received 2 reports of a ticket scam and that inquiries are ongoing. Fans who were packed into the Principality Stadium on Friday and Saturday say it was a great experience, with Oasis on top form at the start of their world tour. That's little comfort for those who lost out, but at least there's some hope for Neil and Hannah Stevens. They've booked to go and see Oasis in Los Angeles later this year.
Alan Thomas reporting there. 7 people have pleaded not guilty at Cardiff Crown Court to charges in connection with the fatal shooting in Rhondda and Taf. Joanne Penny died at the scene after being shot at a flat in Talbot Green on the 9th of March. 8 people in total have been charged in connection with the case. Lucy Vladev reports.
This was Green Park in Talbot Green on the 9th of March this year. Emergency services called to a flat to find Joanne Penny with serious injuries and where she was then pronounced dead. Neighbours, shocked at what had happened, took flowers to the scene. An inquest opening in March heard that the 40-year-old died after being shot in the chest with injuries to her heart and lung. Joanne Penny's family released a statement to say they were devastated by the loss, saying that her kindness, strength and love for her family will never be forgotten. At Cardiff Crown Court today, we heard more details of those charged. 7 of the 8 defendants in this case were in court today to enter their pleas, all of them pleading not guilty to the charges laid against them. 5 have been charged with murder. All 7 have been charged with participating in activities relating to an organised crime group. And 2 have also been charged with firearms offences. An 8th defendant, who wasn't in court today, has also been charged with murder and participating in the activities of an organised criminal group. The judge said that hearing will be moved to later this week. Judge Tracy Lloyd-Clark confirmed a trial date for the 20th of October, which is expected to last 9 weeks.
2 teenage boys accused of murdering a 38-year-old man have appeared in Cardiff Crown Court. Cameron Arman died after police were called to Barry in the Vale of Glamorgan on the 30th of June. The boys, who are 16 and 17 and from Llantwit Major, cannot be named due to their ages. The defendants did not enter a plea and were remanded in youth custody. The mother of a Flintshire toddler who died after receiving catastrophic brain injury says she blamed her father for his death. Shannon Ives from Mold denies causing or allowing the death of 2-year-old Eve Evan Ives Griffiths in August 2021 and child cruelty. Ethan's grandparents, Michael and Kerry Ives, deny murder, causing or allowing his death and child cruelty. Here's Matthew Richards.
Ethan Ives Griffiths died 2 days after collapsing at his grandparents' home in Garden City. He'd been living there for 6 weeks after his mother told her parents she was struggling to cope. At the time of his death, he was underweight, severely dehydrated and covered in 40 marks and bruises. Shannon Ives said she blames Michael Ives for her son's death, and when she was asked how she feels about him, she said, "I hate him." But she denies exaggerating or lying about the way her parents treated Ethan. Asked if she was trying to make Michael's relationship with the toddler seem worse than it was, she said, "No, I'm not." She said she wasn't lying when she told police she'd seen Michael Ives shaking Ethan, including on the day he was rushed to hospital. She said she'd never lost her temper with her son and would only give him a tap on the hand or bottom to discipline him. She said despite being alone with him shortly before his fatal collapse, she didn't hit him and that nothing had happened to him. Ethan suffered a collapse at home the day before, from which he quickly recovered. Mold Crown Court heard Shannon initially told police that when Ethan came round, he gave her and Michael Ives a cuddle, but said in her police interview later that when he saw my dad, he was scared. His face just dropped. At times becoming emotional, she was asked why she didn't raise her concerns earlier. She said, "I don't know, my head was a mess." She went to meet someone on the 3rd of August and left Ethan in the care of her parents. Asked why she did that, she said, "I didn't have any concerns at that time." David Elias KC, representing Michael Ives, put it to her that she wouldn't have left Ethan in the care of someone who'd been hitting him. She replied, "They wouldn't batter him in front of me." She also said Michael and Kerry Ives told her to keep Ethan away from social workers. The trial continues.
The wife of a man who died from a brain tumour is campaigning for patients to have the right to decide what happens to their tissue. Ellie James's husband Owen died last year, and this week she was in the Senedd to hear MS's debate whether the law should be changed to what's being called Owen's Law in his memory. Rodri Lewis reports.
The James family from Caerphilly 3 years ago, when they'd just been told about Owen James's cancer. Mr. James was a healthy 34-year-old when doctors told him he had a malignant stage 4 tumour in his brain.
There is a mass on your brain, he said. And my initial reaction was, right, what do we do next? What's next? I didn't give it a thought that it might have been inoperable, and That would be me, sort of thing.
Half of that tumour was removed, and doctors said the best they could do would be to control the rest of the tumour temporarily. But Owen and his wife decided to try an immunotherapy vaccine which isn't offered on the NHS. The vaccine was based on his tumour tissue and would educate his immune system to recognise the cancerous cells. The issue for the family was that only a small amount of his tumour was kept, but they say the vaccines used, which were created from his tissue, shrunk the remaining tumour to the extent it couldn't be detected. However, the cancer had spread elsewhere and couldn't be treated, and Owen James died last June. His wife Ellie came to the synod to watch her local MS, Hefin David, ask the Welsh Government to change the law to ensure all tumour tissue belongs to the patient so they can decide what to do with it.
When you have your brain tumour removed, as soon as they've put that in paraffin or they've contaminated it with something, you lose all opportunity of doing anything else with it. It's done. So that one decision has to be the right decision.
So whether it would be used for research, for vaccines, that patient deserves that choice so that in future the destination of their tissue is decided by them.
The debate Hefin David led in the Synod asked ministers to bring in what he's calling Owen's Law, but the Health Secretary said he wasn't convinced.
Clinical teams already use their expert judgment to balance diagnostic needs with the potential for research and novel therapies. And overriding that clinical discretion through legislation could compromise timely diagnosis or create conflict where tissue volume is limited, which is why the government does not believe that the case is made for legislation.
Despite the minister's decision, Ellie James and Hefin David say their campaign will continue, and they're determined to see Owen's Law come into force to help improve the treatment options for cancer patients.
Still to come before 7. After a disappointing start to their Euros campaign, can Wales spring a surprise against France? We'll have all the latest from Switzerland.
And temperatures are set to rise this week with a heat wave on the way for most of Wales. Probably the hottest spell of the summer so far. I'll have the latest forecast.
The pain never goes away, you just learn to live with it. The words of Rob Webb from Cardiff, exactly 20 years after he lost his sister Laura in the July the 7th bombings in London. More than 700 people were injured that morning and 52 died in what was one of the worst terror attacks the UK's ever seen. And the personal stories of those affected that day remain powerful and devastating. Nellie Bird has been to speak to some of those who will never forget the day 2 decades ago.
I texted my sister, "Are you okay?" and never heard back.
This is Laura Webb and her 2 brothers, Rob and David. Laura was the youngest and living in London. On the 7th of July 2005, she took the tube to work as normal, but she never came home. It was a day that shook the whole country.
Of an explosion at Liverpool Street Station.
Just after 9 o'clock, reports are beginning to come into the BBC of an alert at a tube station in the capital.
I remember very clearly that I saw reports of power surges. That struck me as being slightly odd, but nothing remarkable.
Rob Webb was miles away from what was unfolding that day at work in Cardiff, but he immediately thought of his sister Laura.
I phoned my mum and she'd been out shopping, and I said where the incidents were thought to have happened. She goes, "Oh, that's Laura's train."
By around 10:15, the Met Police confirmed multiple explosions on the underground network. Moments later, news that a bomb has also gone off on a bus.
I heard a whoomp kind of sound. I've never heard anything like it before, and there was nothing to which I could attach it or associate it with.
Good evening. Helping the injured and dying in the London bomb blasts, the Welsh doctor among the first on the scene.
Dr Andrew Dearden, who was a GP in Cardiff at the time, was in a meeting at the British Medical Association in Tavistock Square that morning. He and other doctors were faced with an overwhelming scene.
I worked in casualty for 6 months, but this is like having 6 months of casualty in 3 hours. I noticed the spread of the debris, how far it had gone from the bus, and then I saw a dismembered limb. You almost have to distance yourself so that you can function
Some people were injured to the extent that we wouldn't be able to help them.
I think my overriding memory of the time is it was a blur, and you're kind of on adrenaline.
This is my sister Laura Webb.
This is Laura's other brother David speaking to the media the day after the blasts. There's still been no word.
There's a choice, really. You can either give up on them and sit back and wait for the door to knock, or you can take active steps to try and track them down and hope against hope that there's a happy outcome, and that's what we did.
It would be a whole week before they had confirmation that Laura had died that day. She was just 29.
The pain never goes away, you just learn to live with it. I really liked having a sister. I don't have a sister anymore, and that's an awful thing to have to live with. There was a book of tributes put together, absolutely every one of the victims. There's an element of anger still. I've never been able to forgive the bombers. This was not an attack on my sister as Laura Webb or any of the other people who were killed or injured. It was an attack on our society as well.
For Andrew, it's not just the horror of the day which has left a mark.
I think it's vital that we remember the good and what people did in response to that. BMA House, excuse me. And staff in the BMA House took apart tables to carry people in. It showed that there was this and then there was this. And I think this is what people should remember.
Today, Rob and his family were in London for the National Commemoration Service at St Paul's Cathedral.
Laura Suzanne Webb.
On the anniversary day itself, I always make a point of, wherever I happen to be, finding a church and going in and lighting a candle. It's small things like that. It's reflection and trying to make the most of the years that I've been given and my sister's been denied.
That was Rob Webb there, ending that report by Nellie Bird. A law that's meant to stop anything like the Grenfell Tower fire happening in Wales was published today. The Welsh Government says it will make it clear who is responsible for keeping buildings safe, but it's not expected to come into force until 2027. That is 10 years after the Grenfell tragedy. Well, our political correspondent Daniel Davis is here. So, first of all, Dan, what is going to change as a result of this?
Well, there will be a new set of rules on how owners, landlords, management companies are supposed to keep buildings safe and, crucially, how they'll be held to account if things go wrong. This all stems from the inquiries that were held after 72 people died in the Grenfell Tower fire in June 2017. One of the things that emerged quite quickly is a sense of frustration because it was difficult to know who was in charge of what, a sense that tenants didn't feel that they were being listened to, and a call to overhaul the laws for building safety. That's what the Welsh Government is trying to do today by creating what it calls an accountable person for every building that contains flats, whether that's a house that's been converted or a big apartment block. Those people will have to carry out fire safety risk assessments, and there are a lot of offences created by this building safety bill. So if the rules and regulations aren't complied with, then potentially for the biggest high-rise tower blocks, people could find themselves in court facing imprisonment of up to 2 years or some pretty big fines.
As we touched on in the introduction there, it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? Why the delay?
Yes, it has. We've just seen the 8th anniversary of the Grenfell fire, probably the last one before they pull the building down. The government has held a few consultations, various reviews into the policies. It published a set of proposals 4 years ago. So it's only today that we're actually seeing that published in a draft law that will have to be approved by the Senedd. The Welsh Government says it goes further than the equivalent regime in England. The difference being, of course, is that regime in England now exists. This one, if it's approved by the Senedd, wouldn't kick in until 2027, as you say, 10 years after the tragedy. Here's how the minister responsible responds to the amount of time this has taken.
What we want to do is to make sure we're getting this right. So we are looking at
all multiple occupied residential buildings in Wales, so that is going to a lot further than other parts of the UK as well. So we're really looking at what we can do for all those residents. That takes time. It's been, developed with tenants and residents as well to make sure we get this right, because we have to.
Nick, the Conservatives are saying the Welsh Government is going to have to foot the bill for all of this, and Plaid Cymru saying that this bill can't detract from the work of taking down combustible or flammable cladding that is still on some buildings.
OK, Dan, thanks very much. To the Euros now in Switzerland, and Wales's most capped player, Jess Fishlock, believes 100% that her side can spring a surprise against France, and has urged her teammates to put the 3-0 opening defeat to Netherlands in the bin. Wales are in St Gallen ahead of Wednesday's key match, as is Thomas David, who sent this report.
A new week, another city. St Gallen, the destination for Wales this week. Despite a comprehensive defeat against the Netherlands, the players believe they can bounce back.
The biggest kind of message is, not to dwell too much on the game and the loss. I think we really need to kind of take what we need to take from it and move forward and kind of throw the rest in the bin. I think that's my favorite saying all the time, is take what you need to take and throw the rest in the bin. Like, it's not going to help you. And if it's not going to help you, it's just going to hurt you.
It was a memorable occasion on Saturday. The result, less so. A third
part of us in this team that's fearful going into Wednesday. Like you said, our previous encounters against France have been really positive. We've stayed in the game till the last minute. And I remember when we played them away, we even went down to 10 men and we were still having chances. And that just shows the kind of team that we really are. So yeah, I think we could take huge positives from our previous encounters, and we can take that going into Wednesday.
England in their opening game.
It was obviously an impressive result for them. And look, we're under no illusion that they're a world-class team, and yeah, we're looking forward to it on Wednesday.
Wales were already underdogs, but after that defeat, you won't find many people here willing to give them any hope during this campaign. Defeat against France here on Wednesday would effectively see them eliminated with a game to go. There's little margin for error now. Wales know their Euro adventure will be a short one if they cannot spring a surprise here on Wednesday.
Well, shortly before coming on air, Thomas caught up with the former Wales international, Nia Jones.
Well, the big breaking news in St Gallen tonight is, well, it's no longer hideously hot. A storm's come in, that's why we're inside right now with Nia Jones, former Wales international. And I guess this dip in temperature will help the players.
Massively. It can't go unsaid how difficult the conditions were when they were playing against the Netherlands, a formidable team whose movement was hard to deal with as it was, but 31 degrees heat, blaring down in sunshine. They'll be thrilled that it's more like Welsh weather, I think, for the game against France.
Yeah, let's talk about Wednesday night. Just outline for us, how much of a challenge will it be now for the players to pick themselves up for that game?
I actually think now that that first big monumentous match is out the way, they no longer have, not the excuse, I don't want to put that on it, but they no longer have that pressure of it being such a historical event. And I actually think they can relax and get into their normal routine of playing what is going to be a really, really tough opponent. Wales have never beaten a top 10 side, and they are that exactly.
Right, closer to home, let's find out what's happening with the weather. Derek is here. How's it looking?
Well, Nick, temperatures are set to rise later this week with a heat wave on the way for most of the country, potentially the hottest spell of the summer so far. Back to today now, and certainly no heat wave in Llangollen this morning in Denbighshire. A few showers there with the sheep enjoying this rainbow, but it did brighten up. A beautiful afternoon in Porthcawl with a few cumulus clouds and a high of 20 Celsius. Now, this evening cloud will increase with scattered showers spreading southwards. 1 or 2 of these showers on the heavy side, but later on tonight it will turn dry and clearer again, with temperatures in some rural spots falling as low as 8 Celsius. A decent day to come tomorrow. It's looking dry with sunny spells. May turn cloudier in the far west later in the afternoon. Highest temperatures tomorrow in the southeast, 23 or 24 Celsius, nearer 16 Celsius in Fishguard with a breeze off the sea. And the wind tomorrow lighter than today. Now, looking ahead to Wednesday, we start off with some low cloud and mist. That will tend to clear. 1 or 2 showers may break out in mid and south Wales in the afternoon. Otherwise dry with sunny spells and warmer on Wednesday, feeling more humid. Temperatures in the southeast, 26 or 27 Celsius. Then looking ahead, we got high pressure over the UK on Thursday and Friday, drifting towards Scandinavia on Saturday, with a heat wave developing across most of Wales, lasting for at least a few days. So the outlook for later this week into the weekend, dry, lots of strong sunshine, toasty temperatures as well. 31 Celsius possible in Cardiff, that's 88 Fahrenheit. Very warm or hot on the coast as well. So a hot spell on the way later this week and over the weekend. Turning cooler next week, but still above normal, drier than average as well. That's all from me. Back to Nick.
Wow, those are warm temperatures, Derek. Thank you very much. That's Wales Today. I'll be back after the 10 o'clock news. Thanks for watching tonight. Have a good evening.